Hello there, it's Walton Christopher. I'm going to make a repair today on my 2013 Ford Focus. We have leaks in the coolant overflow expansion lines. I always just refer to them as Degas lines, but I think that's more of a diesel term. So the issue I'm running into is my coolant just keeps dropping. And I've actually had it drop even lower below that hose, and I even had a brief second where the temperature gauge shot up. I'm confident I didn't do any damage, but we have to address this. I've actually addressed it quite a few times. If this is a problem you're running into where you're losing coolant, do some investigating. Up here, what does that look like? That looks like maybe some dried up coolant overspray. So that matches up with that repair I made on the coolant line. We're gonna replace this whole line, which starts at the, I don't know if it starts or ends, but one end is at the overflow expansion tank, goes all the way up the front of the engine and splits off into two. One goes into the radiator underneath this intake manifold, whatever this stuff is. The other line splits off and goes into the engine block there. You can see I made a repair. That is not OEM. That's just some standard fuel line. Had another repair there. And another one there. So we're long overdue. No more repairs. There's probably 1,000 pinholes in this thing. But I want to bring this up. If you're ever on the side of the road and you've got this fuel line that breaks, snaps in half, just grab, this coolant line. If this thing ever snaps in half, grab some fuel line, cut it down, couple clamps, squeeze it into the fuel line. It'll get you home. Actually, get you going for maybe even tens of thousands of miles. So look, I just want to show y'all what I'm doing. I didn't pull out any tools yet. I've just got the new hose and I'm tracing it where it's gonna go. I'm being gentle with it. It's way more pliable than this old hose, but I'm still being gentle with it. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the old hose out and putting the new one in the clips. Gosh, those birds are really talking today. Same thing, take the old hose out, put the new one in where it was. There's another clip down there. Take that one out. Now this is where it gets tricky. A lot of people are gonna say, look, just take all this stuff out. You know, the intake, you don't need it, just give yourself the room. This is not for everybody. I've got hands that can fit in these cracks. So what I've managed to do is I've traced my line underneath all of this and it's ready to go in there. This one, I'm gonna trace under here and it's gotta go. See if I can get this on the video camera. Okay, I got my hand in the cookie jar, so to speak. This is where it's going into the radiator block. This is how I got in. There's a plastic piece like that. I wiggled it out because you can see that strap that holds it all down, and once you unstrap it, gives you a little bit of room. So I'm in here. I'm gonna try and get it off this way. I'm gonna need to use both hands. Okay, so I did use both hands. I got it off. That collection container caught very little of it, so be sure to hose that down if you got pets animals roaming around. Went through a glove. That's why I wear the gloves. I don't like the coolant. I'm allergic. All right, we got that all hooked up. Just be gentle with it. These clip right into place. Be careful under there. That's a plastic nipple that sticks out, so don't be too aggressive with it, and you should be good. So I've been operating a few days and everything seems to be holding up just fine. I did drop just a little bit of coolant. That's perfectly normal once it works its way through. I'm gonna do a drain and fill here soon, so I'm not gonna top that off at this very moment. It'll be just fine. One thing to consider is the Mazda 3 Series. It's pretty much the same engine from, I don't know the exact years, but 2003-ish to 2009, if I recall. And they have coolant overflow expansion lines that are a little bit more thicker and robust, and they should hook up just fine because I've seen other guys do that, and they don't seem to be having any problems. So that's an option to consider if you're at the junkyard and you see those. But you know, at this point, these coolant overflow expansion lines, they're like $10, so you might as well just go with that. I want to highlight some tools you're gonna need, it's very minimal, very minimum stuff. You're gonna need something to grip the clamps on and off with. I use some plumber's vices, and the reason I'm showing you these is these were the first ones available, and I know a lot of people don't have a lot of tools, so you can get it done with these. You're gonna have to use it on that clamp in there, although this isn't ideal because, you know, you can just rough it up. Ideally, you want a pair of pliers that fits in the palm of your hand. I just couldn't find them. I was in a rush, and, you know, organizing the toolbox is another video in itself. Another thing that may come in handy is a blade. That's because that tube down there that connects to the engine block can be quite a bear to get off. So what I did is I went in there and I just scraped at it and cut away at it a few times until I broke it, and that really made it a lot easier to get off. Just don't go too hard on it because it does appear to be a plastic nipple under there. You're also definitely going to need some distilled water or some pre-diluted coolant. Minimum distilled water. Ideally some very soft filtered water, but distilled water is just going to be just fine. And you're also going to need some type of container to catch whatever spills out as far as the coolant's concerned. You want to catch as much as possible. I just made that here very quickly because it's what I had, but you can also use like a kitty litter tray. Those work great. You know, you don't need an expensive one. Just go ahead and grab one from the dollar store or what have you. And another thing you might want to consider is just some gloves. Places like Harbor Freight, they have really good ones for mechanics, but you know, anything will do. I just don't like having coolant and motor oil on my hands. I feel like I might be allergic to it, so I try to avoid it. But I hope I was able to help some people today. If you were able to do the repair on your own with my instruction, congratulations. It's a job well done, and you can feel good about that, putting your car back on the road.